Okay, this is the feedback from our nutrition report. So nutrition for endurance runners is both important for peak performance and overall health. The purpose of this report is to analyse your diet and physical activity levels and provide you with recommendations to improve your overall health and performance. So you've stated that you are a 17-year-old male who competes in national level track, cross-country, road running. You complete around 8 to 12 sessions per week, and this amounts to around 8 to 12 hours of training per week. This is a relatively high training load, therefore a suitable nutrition plan is essential to reduce fatigue and maximise training adaptations. So athletes require an adequate intake of foods known as macronutrients. These consist of carbs, fats and proteins. Now, a well-balanced diet needs to be sufficient in these macronutrients in order to provide energy balance. Now, energy balance can be defined as the difference between energy intake and energy expenditure. A negative energy balance is actually quite common in endurance sports due to the high training load. This involves cyclists, runners, triathletes, for example. Now, a challenging endurance plan involving daily or twice sessions requires enough fuel and recovery strategies to reduce fatigue and maximise training adaptations. So now on to energy systems. So exercise is fueled by an integrated series of energy systems. This includes oxidative systems and non-oxidative systems. Oxidative relies on fats and carbohydrates, and non-oxidatives is quick energy, essentially. Now, the amount of the type of energy system that you'll use depends on several factors. The intensity, duration of the exercise, the type of training, your training level, and the prior nutrition to start an exercise. So in endurance training, the primary energy system is the oxidative system, which relies on fats and carbohydrates. So even middle distance events such as 1500 metres will rely on up to 80% of the aerobic system, and all the way up to the marathon, which relies on almost 100% of this oxidative aerobic system. Now, energy requirements for endurance athletes are a lot higher than the average population. So energy expenditure can be described as resting metabolic rate plus the energy expenditure due to training and daily activities. Now, the amount of energy to maintain body weight under resting conditions can be defined as your resting metabolic rate. Now, using the Harris-Benedict formula, we calculate your RMR, as resting metabolic rate is commonly described as 1,759 calories per day. This would be the amount of calories you would need to consume under resting conditions. Now, looking at the recommendations, overall endurance athletes should be consuming between 2,800 to 4,300 calories per day. Obviously, this is a broad range, and the calories you consume per day will depend on your training load for that day. So if you're training twice or 3 times a day, maybe with an interval session in there as well, or moderate to high intensity, that's going to require more calories than a recovery day, for example. So through analysing your activity diaries, we calculated your energy expenditure due to training as 3,127 calories per day. Now, recovery days with only one session may only require 2,400 calories to maintain what we call energy balance. Equally high intensity days, such as the days you might do interval training or train twice or do a long run, this may require 3,400 to 4,000 calories per day to maintain energy balance. Now, looking at the results of this report, your average energy intake per day was 2,753 calories. This was analysed over a 3-day period from the food diary you provided. Average total expenditure was 3,127, therefore on average you're consuming around 400 calories per day less than your energy expenditure. Now the highest energy expenditure was 3,434. This was on Saturday, and the lowest on Friday being 2,632. So you're looking at your macronutrients. Your carb intake was roughly half of your total energy intake, which was 49.2%. Fats was 27.7%, and protein accounted for the least, 23.2%. Now, total energy intake, as stated before, for an athlete like you with your training load, should be around 2,800 to 4,400 calories per day. So your carbohydrate intake was quite a lot less than the research suggested. This was around 358 grams per day, which is quite low. I think looking at the recommendations, it's maybe looking at you should be consuming 500 to 600 carbohydrates per day. Fats was in line with the recommendations, and protein was quite high, almost three times twice actually the recommendations. Protein accounted for actually 2.4 grams per kilogram per day, or 158 grams per day. Recommendations suggest around 1.4 to 2 grams per day of protein per kilogram of body weight. Now, you're looking at your micronutrients, which are essential for the body's metabolism and a lot of functions which happen in the body. The results indicate that overall you were intaking adequate levels of these micronutrients. You were slightly low on calcium and vitamin D, which would need to be increased. Iron consumption could be increased, as endurance runners require almost up to 70% more than the average individual of iron. And water consumption was within line with recommendations. Okay, now Ethan will take you through the recommendation part of this report.
Looking at your recommendations for your diet report. Starting off here, your current intake of carbohydrates is at 358.2 grams per day. We recommend that you increase that to 528 grams per day. If not trained correctly, it can increase your fat stores. Less intense days, we suggest 396 grams per day. Any lower could have an impact on your performance in a negative way. More intense training days, we look at to increase to around 660 grams per day. We look at research, elite athletes eat more during harder training days. Any more than 660 could, again, have a negative impact on performance, obviously with the fat stores. We're looking at now, we go to the preparation phase is very important, not just about what you eat, but the timing of what you eat. So we would like you to start eating between a 1 to 4 hour time frame before you either exercise or go into training or an event. Will gradually increase your glycogen stores, especially your gut and liver glycogen, which is went through an overnight fast. So this has been while you're sleeping, you don't eat while you sleep. Other things, we look at the post now. Post, we look at, you want to be eating between the first 4 to 6 hours after you've trained, exercised or been in an event. We look at 66 to 79 grams an hour to get that maximum result of recovery. If not, you're going to experience more pain in the muscles. If not, so we do recommend you eat 66 to 79 grams an hour to get that maximum potential and results of recovery. Moving on to fats. Fats are very helpful. They help fat-soluble vitamins in terms of facilitation. The baseline is between 20 to 30% of your energy intake. As it stands, you are currently intaking 27.7% of that energy intake with fat. So you're in between the norm. I will get onto it, but because your protein is above the norm, you could decrease the fats. This would mean that you would lose body fat, but you would maintain the muscle mass. So that's just down to as it stands, you're in the norm, but that is obviously your opinion, what you want to do with your diet. We're moving on to protein. Your current intake is 158 grams a day. Current guidelines state that between 79.3 grams a day and 132 grams a day. Your protein helps in adaptations to the muscle recovery and repairing muscle after exercise. Your the elevated amounts won't be an issue if you're spreading your protein out along the day. Like I said before, if you reduce your fats and keep your protein as it is, even though it is above the norm, you will see body fat decrease and your fats, your muscle mass will maintain. Post, we would look at to get a protein shake or a banana in immediately after. Again, this is helping with getting your maximum result of recovery in. This will avoid muscle soreness, and also this will get the maximum potential of recovery in terms of repairing and remodeling the muscle and adapting after training, exercising, or an event. So we're going to look into micronutrients now. Because your training schedule is quite intense, you will require more micronutrients than the standard population. We're looking into now, we're going to calcium. Calcium is used mainly for help with growth, maintenance and bone tissue repairs. It also has influence on regulation of muscle contraction and nerve conduction. The risk of low bone density and stress fractures are increased if you have low amounts of calcium. Your current intake is 871 milligrams. The daily recommended intake is around 1,000 milligrams per day. To help prevent what I previously stated, the risks such as stress fractures, and to help with maintenance, obviously with the bone growth and obviously bone tissue repairs, I would recommend that you do take more calcium and obviously try and get to that 1,000 milligrams per day. Now moving on to iron. Iron intake amounts can have low amounts of intake of iron can have negative effects on muscle function, and it can also limit your work capacity. So this can have a massive effect on your training schedule if you're not taking enough iron. You look at the way you intake iron is from hemafoods. Hemafoods, so stuff like red meat, is a very good source of iron. You can even get iron from things such as iron cutlery, things like that. Your current intake of iron is 17 milligrams. The daily recommended intake is 11.3. So you are getting more iron into your system than the recommended norm. Too much iron can have a negative effect. You could end up with iron poisoning. In serious cases, it could be fatal. You could experience things such as nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, stuff like that. So to avoid that, we would suggest that you could decrease, so eat less red meat. Obviously avoid iron cutlery, stuff like that. But it's not a massive increase, so you should be okay. Now moving on to vitamin D. Vitamin D plays a key role in a number of areas. It maintains things such as metabolism, helps regulate calcium, and also plays a key role in maintaining bone health. We would, if your training blocks are the start of a morning, early morning, or at night time, obviously you are going to be getting less vitamin D in. Or if you're wearing an excessive amount of clothing during this could have a negative effect on getting that vitamin D in. Your current vitamin D intake is 3.1. The recommended is 10. So this is an insufficient amount of vitamin D. So we do suggest that you get more vitamin D into your system. Again, obviously having vitamin D supplements, tablets you could take. But during training, maybe we train later in the day, so maybe afternoon when the sun is out and you're getting that source in that way naturally. Going on to the B vitamins, they play a key role. Also, they help maintain normal physiological and metabolic functions. They're all different in their own way, but they all relate somehow. All of your current B vitamins that you are taking, they are all above the daily recommended intake norm. Sometimes they have no effect on your body, but in serious cases it can lead to things such as hair loss, gastrointestinal problems, rashes, nerve damage, but your current intake isn't too high, so I wouldn't really worry about that. You can alter it, instead of altering things that you eat, probably look more into sort of supplements that you're taking that contain B vitamins, and maybe reduce them so you can avoid and prevent those serious negative effects.